Chapter 1: The Weaver of Shadows. In the heart of a crumbling empire, where the sky was veiled in perpetual dusk and the ground trembled with whispers of rebellion, there lived a woman whose very existence defied the very fabric of the world. Her name was Elira Vaith, and she was not merely a warrior, she was a force of nature, a being forged in the crucible of destiny. Born under the veil of night, when the stars were silent and the moon a stranger to the land, Elira was marked by an unshakable resolve. Her parents, both scholars and mystics, spoke of her as a child with the eyes of a god and the hands of a goddess. Yet, they never named her a warrior. They simply said she was different. Elira's childhood was one of solitude. She wandered the forests where the trees spoke in riddles and the rivers sang forgotten lullabies. Her tutors, once wary of her unorthodox methods, later recognized the precision of her movements and the clarity of her thoughts. When she first wielded a sword, it was not to fight, but to carve her identity into the bones of the world. She did not fight for glory, nor for kings. She fought for the right to be seen. Her armor, a gift from her grandmother, a relic of a forgotten dynasty, was more than protection. It was a symbol of her defiance. The leather was stitched with symbols that shimmered in the light, each one a thread in the tapestry of her story. She wore it not as a warrior, but as a poet, a philosopher, a daughter of the stars. Elira's beauty was not mere ornamentation. It was a language, a melody that resonated in the hearts of those who listened. She was the daughter of a queen who once spoke in tongues of fire and ice, and she had inherited that gift. Her voice, when it came to song, was a symphony that could shatter the soul. When she spoke, the world listened. Chapter 2: The Scholar of Tongues. Elira's mastery of 12 languages was not born of mere curiosity. It was a necessity. The empire she fought for was a patchwork of cultures, each with its own dialects, customs, and traditions. To navigate it, she had learned the tongues of the nomads, the scholars, the merchants, and the rebels. Her words were a bridge between worlds. She could negotiate treaties in the tongue of the desert, compose poetry in the cadence of the ocean's waves, and soothe a wounded warrior with the words of a lullaby. Yet, her greatest gift was not her tongue, but her heart. She was the daughter of a people who had once been slaves, and she carried their grief in her bones. She knew the weight of betrayal, the ache of silence, and the power of a voice that could ignite a movement. In the village of Lyrian, where the sun rose and set in different colors, Elira founded the Order of the Silent Flame. She was their leader, their protector, their voice. She spoke in the tongue of the river, the language of the wind, and the dialect of the rebels. She taught the children of the village not just to fight, but to listen. Chapter 3: The Blade and the Baton. Elira's prowess in combat was legendary. She was not the first warrior, nor the most feared, but she was the one who could wield two swords at once, the blade of steel and the blade of will. Her movements were fluid, each motion a dance of grace and power. She could strike with the precision of a surgeon and the fury of a storm. Her training began in the shadow of the ancient temple of Kael'thar, where the walls bore the scars of centuries of wars. The temple's master, a man who once believed in the futility of resistance, later realized that Elira was not a warrior to be vanquished. She was a force that could reshape the world. One night, as the stars aligned in a celestial dance, she stood atop the temple's highest peak. The wind howled like 1,000 voices, and she felt the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. She had not just fought for her people, she had fought for the right to be heard. Chapter 4: The Chef and the Composer. Elira's world was a tapestry woven from countless threads. Her kitchen was a sanctuary where she transformed raw ingredients into meals that spoke of love and resilience. She was the chef who could cook a meal that made a soldier weep or a banquet that stirred the hearts of the empire's rulers. Her hands, once bound by the rigors of combat, now moved with the same grace as her sword. She was known for her soul of the flame dish, a stew that combined the bitterness of the desert's thorn bushes with the sweetness of the forest's honey. It was a meal that reminded those who ate it of the duality of life, the harsh and the gentle, the bitter and the sweet. Yet, it was her music that truly defined her. She played the Illyria's lament, a fusion of the guitar's melancholy, the bass's deep resonance, and the drum's thunderous rhythm. Her songs were not just for entertainment, they were weapons. They could heal, they could inspire, and they could unite. One night, she performed under the stars, her voice weaving a tale of resistance and hope. The crowd, once divided by the Empire's divisions, now stood in unison, their hearts beating as one. Chapter 5: The Warrior of Many Voices. Illyria's path was not without peril. The Empire's rulers, blinded by their own power, sought to silence her. They accused her of treason, of breaking the sacred pact between the people and their leaders. She was hunted, her home razed, her skills stripped away. But she did not falter. She fought not with a sword, but with 1,000 voices. She rose from the ashes of her village, her enemies now her allies. She became the voice of the people, the one who could speak in the tongues of the oppressed and the silenced. In the face of tyranny, she wielded her armor not as a tool of conquest, but as a shield of justice. She fought not for glory, but for the right to be free. Chapter 6: The Crescendo of Resistance. The Empire's heart was a fortress of stone, its walls reinforced by the might of its warriors. Yet, within its depths, a storm brewed. The rebels, led by the Order of the Silent Flame, had grown bolder. They sought to dismantle the Empire's oppressive laws, to grant women the same rights as men. Illyria stood at the forefront, her sword and guitar in hand. She was the warrior who could strike down the oppressors, but she was also the one who could heal the wounded, the one who could inspire the weary. One night, she led a charge into the imperial capital. The streets were blood-stained, the air thick with the scent of smoke and rebellion. The Empire's guards, once her enemies, now stood before her, their armor tarnished, their spirits broken. She fought with the same ferocity she had always possessed. She struck with the precision of a surgeon, her blade cutting through the chains of oppression. She sang with the power of 1,000 voices, her words a rallying cry that shook the very foundations of the Empire. But the enemy was not just a collection of soldiers. It was the Empire itself, a system built on inequality, on fear. And she knew that victory would not come easily. Chapter 7: The Symphony of Sacrifice. The battle was not won in a single day. It was won in the quiet moments between the clashes. Illyria's resolve was tested as she faced the weight of her own doubts. She had always believed that strength lay in the ability to fight, but now she understood that true power came from the ability to lead. She led not just the rebels, but the people. She taught them to fight not with weapons, but with the knowledge that their voices could be heard. She taught them to sing not just for joy, but for justice. She taught them to cook not just for sustenance, but for survival. One night, as the moon hung low over the ruins of the Empire, she stood atop the hill where the battle had raged. The stars above mirrored the stars below, and in that moment, she understood she was not just a warrior, nor merely a chef, nor a musician. She was the voice of the people, the daughter of the stars, the one who could weave a symphony that would never fade. Chapter 8: The Final Crescendo. The Empire's rulers, once the storm, now faced the truth of their own tyranny. The rebels had not just fought for freedom, they had fought for the right to be free. The people, once divided by fear, now stood as one. Illyria stepped forward, her armor gleaming in the moonlight. She raised her sword, not to strike, but to end. She did not need to kill. She needed to change. The Empire's throne was shattered. The laws that had oppressed the people were rewritten. Women were granted the same rights as men. The Order of the Silent Flame became a beacon of hope. And as the last note of Illyria's Soul of the Flame echoed through the night, the world remembered a woman who had once been unseen, now seen. Epilogue: The Eternal Flame. Years later, Illyria's story was told in every corner of the world. She was the warrior who fought not with a blade, but with 1,000 voices. The chef who turned hunger into hope. The musician who sang the song of resistance. She was not merely a woman. She was the embodiment of the impossible. And as the stars aligned once more, she smiled, knowing that the greatest battle was not fought in the arena of war, but in the quiet moments of love, courage, and unity.